I don't know if I'm ready for this one.
Illustrations by me.
So this is strange. We are at the 4th video now. And this is the one that I marked wrong in the last one. I thought it was 3. No, this is the 4th one. The 4th set, which starts with some blues, then it goes through, I'd say 80% of this entire palette is greens. You know how I feel about that. You know I'm gonna run into some problems here too. I'm just doing the whole thing with that old brush that's already stained. We'll do that. And that's the other thing. Just so you know, it's not just that the brush gets stained. It's that everything gets stained. I can't mix on a palette, it'll get stained, unless it's a porcelain palette. But if I mix on anything, it'll get stained. Even the water, you rinse it out, unless I use the porcelain one, you rinse it out, you get stained. Everything gets stained with that green. I'm gonna run into it a lot. I'm looking at some of the colors. It's not gonna be fun. So I'll see. The strange thing is, I haven't even released the first one of these yet. You haven't even, well, you have seen, because now you're into, this is the 4th video here. That's what that says now, number 4. It doesn't say 3 anymore. Anyway, this is the 4th video, the 4th set of these colors. And you have no idea. I haven't really, well, I have no idea. You have an idea. I have not released the first one yet, so I don't know if anyone even enjoys these. I have no idea what's going on. Hopefully you're enjoying the series because I'm putting some work into it, so I hope you're enjoying it. Now this is going to be, I guess this Monday for me, this coming Monday, will be the first video that gets released, and I'll get to see your reaction from the first one. Hopefully you like it, that I didn't just waste my time. But this 4th one, I think it's gonna go well. There's some colors in here. We have it starts up here with a blue, a Charlie, we'll get to that. It starts up here with a blue. Most of these are greens down through here. There's like a peach, and then there's a couple of earthy yellows. That's it. I'm hoping I can do something here that's worth doing. You know that how I feel about greens and the things I have to put up with, and now I'm going to be doing this mostly with greens. It may not be good. We'll see. Maybe they're just going to surprise me. I'm not saying I don't like greens. Just, I hope they have the colors that I would like for greens. I don't know. We'll see. I hope they do. And I've also been enjoying hosting brushes for every one of these. So far, we've done a different brush for every one. And I've got some that I bought a very long time ago. I can't even remember using it. The only thing I know is I remember the feel of it because it's like a velvety, not a velvety, it's like a rubberized grip. And I like the feel of it. But this is a number 6 round, and this is a 1/2 inch. They call this one an angular shader. Now the angular shader is very similar to the Simply Simmons sword brush that I already used, but I'm going to try and use both of these. They are the Princeton Aqua Elites. Now, I've heard some great things about these. I bought these a couple of years ago, probably, and I can't even remember using them. I know I did, because I remember the feel, but I don't know what it was like using them. Do you enjoy me hosting brushes with the videos? Please let me know. I like doing it. I think it just adds another dimension to it. And I'm not testing them. I'm just going to paint with them. I'll let you know what I think of them. So these are, like I said, I've had these for a long time. These are sitting here for a while now. This may be a hard palette. I'm worried. I'm concerned. I don't know how this is going to go. And during the painting, I'm going to talk to you. Listen, of course, I'm going to talk about the paints. I'm going to talk about the whole process and the brushes. But I want to talk to you about some things that I think every artist is concerned with. And I don't know, I think it's overhyped. We'll see if the thing is overhyped, and it's usually something that a lot of people obsess about. A lot of you are newer artists, or you're coming back to art after a long time, and you may be looking for things that you have no idea that you shouldn't be looking for. We'll go into it. I'll give you my point of view. It probably will not be the popular point of view. I'm sure plenty of people will have a problem with what I say. As usual, that's just how it goes, but just hear me out before you judge it. All right, let's get into the swatching and then we'll talk about that. Okay, so moving right along, we went through the yellows first, then we went through the reds and then a little bit of purples down here. Then we did all the blues and purples. There's some purples here, not red. There's purples here, and then blues, lots of blues. I don't know where that one fit in, but we got it. And by the way, yes, that's a very pretty color. I actually really like it, and I'd probably use it on a palette. I really do like that color. Anyway, we're gonna start on this one. Let's get into the swatch here. Okay, as usual, to do the swatch, I'm using a water brush, and you see that it is stained at the top. It's all green. This is my green one. That's what I'm gonna use for this. I'm not touching any other brush for this. I'll screw something up. And it looks like we can just get straight into this. Just as a refresher, you have the one light fest or two or whatever it is. The light fest will be right there. It'll be the first one there. And then you will have, whether it's transparent or opaque, it'll be that circle. The series is in the square. Whether it's staining or not, you'll see an S there. If you don't see an S, it's not staining. And then if it's granulating, if there's no granulation there, you'll like this one here, there's no G, there's not granulating at all. A 1 is slightly and 2 is very granulating. So just so you know how that goes, and then we'll put the pigments down below. Okay, so we're gonna get started right off the bat with something that I both love and absolutely do not like. But let me ask you a question. Charlie O Blue. Now you know Charlie. Everybody knows Charlie. World Watercolor Month Charlie. That's him. He got a blue. What did he do to get a blue? I mean, he's a lot more popular than I am, and he's a little bit famous, and he does a lot more for the artistic community than I've ever done in my life, but not why he got a blue. I answered my own question. Just ignore me. Pete needs something. Anyway, One Light Fest, it's opaque. We have a Series 3 staining and a very granulating. Now what you have here is the PB15-4. So you're looking at a phthalo blue. It is a phthalo blue. But the 1 is the red shade, the 3 is the green shade. There's a lot of phthalos. The 4 is more like a cerulean, something like that. It's that kind of shade there, like a cyan kind of color. Then you have the ridiculous phthalo green. Of course, you had to put that in there. Anyway, that's the blue shade. And then a titanium white. So he did this on purpose to be opaque. Now, I've heard other watercolors people say, no, we don't use, you want transparent watercolor. Otherwise, it's not really traditional water. Yes, it is. Let me tell you something. When they first came up with watercolor, I guarantee you that the pieces were not ground so fine that they were transparent. They were opaque, or at least semi-opaque. It's just watercolor. Anyway, so here we go. Here's the color here, and it is definitely very opaque. That is like what you'd paint an Easter egg. That's that kind of color. It's very nice color. I can see where it's going into the green. You can see the green in it. Maybe if it was a little bit, maybe just if it didn't have the green in it, I think it would be a lot more like that cerulean color. Do you remember the ceruleans? Let me get you there. Hold on. So that like a manganese, yeah, very similar. So the ceruleans, the manganese. Here's the cerulean here. That's a hue. That's the cerulean blue genuine, and then you come down here and you got more closer to that manganese blue. That's probably what it would look like if it was, and that may be what they used there. It's a PB15, but they didn't say which one, and that may be it that they used there. But this is the PB15-4, and it has that kind of tone to it, but then they added that green to it, and of course, with the white, it becomes much more opaque. I don't care. That does not matter to me. I don't know if it matters to you, but whether it's opaque or transparent, I just use it the way it needs to be used. It doesn't determine whether I actually like the color or not, or whether I like the paint or not. I don't have an issue. Some people will only use one or the other. And that moved through the water a little bit. They only use the opaque colors, or they only use the transparent colors. More people will only use the transparent colors than will only use the opaque colors. But it's just, It's what I'm saying. Now, they had a sea and sky on the other one. Let's see what the sea glass looks like. Oh, that looks interesting. So if you don't put the white in it, you have the same things here, but this is transparent because there's no white in it. So they left the PW6 out. I stuck my finger in the paint. Anyway, they didn't use the white there, so they just have it here as the 15.4 and the PG7. It is full light fastness, excellent. It's transparent, Series 3, and staining, but no granulation on this one. So let's see what this looks like. I think it looks kind of interesting. It looks like yeah, so that's what I would think of as like I don't even know. It's not a phthalo turquoise, definitely not. But it is, I would consider it like an aqua color. So maybe more like a teal maybe? Yeah, teal. More like a teal than a turquoise. But still, pretty color. Look how dark that gets. Almost black. That's from that ridiculous, ridiculous color right there. Anyway, let's see what it does in the water. It moves a little bit, not a whole lot. Now, I love cobalt turquoise. I love all the cobalts. I'm a cobalt person. I like the cobalts. If they were good salts, I would add them to my food, but you're not allowed to do that because they are poisonous. Don't do that. Don't come anywhere near that. But anyway, the cobalt salts, wonderful things. This is called the cobalt chromite. This is the PB36. It's got full light fastness. It's opaque. Series 5 and fully granulating. All cobalts are really granulating. If they're real cobalts, they're granulating. I absolutely love the cobalt colors. Some of my favorite colors in the world. And look how nice of a color that is. That's the color, like almost like, I don't know, that this got dark when not dark, it got darker as it dried. But very, very similar kind of color ones. They still opaque, but that's because of the stuff in it. I don't think that it's really that opaque. I don't think it's fully opaque. Probably partially opaque, but you never know. Watercolor, they say, well, watercolor is always a little bit transparent because that's how it gets its color. The light goes through it, and then it bounces back and reflects the water underneath. That moved a little bit, not much, but it's good. These are moving fine in the water. They're dispersing in the water just fine. Now we have a cobalt turquoise deep. I'm guessing this is going to be a little bit more green. Same pigment, the cobalt chromite, full light fast. It's opaque. Series 5 granulating 2. It's the same thing. It's just how it's processed. It comes off a little different. But let's see what this looks like. It's probably a little bit more green, I would say. Maybe it's a little darker. Let's see. And yeah, it looks a little bit, well, it's just darker. I think it's just a little bit darker. Maybe a little bit more to the green side. You could see that. It's just a little bit more maybe to the green side there. And I do wipe away that edge just so you can see the lighter color underneath, what it would look like. But this is a nice color. I think it's something that I would enjoy and fits in this palette. This got really green. This sea glass, good call there on that color. I would say that. I've never seen the sea glass, but I wonder if I did, it would look like that, I'm sure. And of course, the thing that I love about the cobalts is that they granulate beautifully. I love the granulation. I know it's hard to see. You probably don't see it, but I can see granulation even in the thickest part of the paint, and then down here a little bit as well. Same thing here. You can see the granulation in here, but I can see it in the thickest part in the paint just looking at it in person. Moving right along to the cobalt green. Now here's it's a hue. They didn't use the real cobalt green. So there's a one light fast, it's completely transparent Series 3, a little bit of granulation in it. I'm not sure why they did the cobalt green hue and didn't just use the cobalt green, but they chose to go with the hue route. That's fine, nothing wrong with that. So you have a excellent light fastness, transparent Series 3 granulating. Did I already say that granulating one? Yeah, I think I already said that. Anyway, it's the phthalo green, and you have here the Prussian blue. Let's see what that looks like. Now, cobalt greens many times can come off very, not very staining, not a lot of tinting strength. Let's put it that way. Not a lot of tinting strength. But of course, when you add that lunatic in the mix, everything, tinting strength goes way up. and also your sanity leaves you. That's how that works. But I don't. This looks like a phthalo green to me. I don't know. We're gonna see some more phthalo greens here, but it just looks like a phthalo green to me. I don't think there's anything cobaltish about it. Cobalt. I have a couple of them, and I will tell you that I like them, but this is not what that reminds me of at all. I would not use this as a cobalt green. I'd use it as a phthalo green, but not a cobalt green. That's definitely not for me. It's a little darker with the Prussian blue added to it, a little bit darker than a phthalo, but still, I still wouldn't use. And it's granulating. So if you want a phthalo green that granulates, maybe you would use this one. Oh, look at what they've done here. That's a real Viridian. Okay, I've just wet this because I know that's hard to re-wet sometimes, the Viridians. Anyway, excellent light fastness, transparent series 3, and granulating. I love this color. I don't know what theirs is going to look like, but I love a good Viridian. It actually looks like a phthalo green kind of, but a little bit paler. Usually, I'll say usually. But it's one of my favorite greens that I've ever used for mixing. I don't usually use it full strength, but I will use it for mixing. And it's a little lighter tinting strength. It always is because it's harder to re-wet. And it tends to be a little bit lighter tinting strength anyway. I'll see if I can scrub a little bit more here and just put it on the edge here just to see. Yeah, that's about as dark as it's going to get. That's fine. But I do love a good Viridian. Viridian is my friend. It's the rich brother. It's the richer sibling. Let's put it that way. People see Viridian and they think, oh, that's classy. That one goes to the good restaurants and eats the good restaurants. And the phthalo green, they go to McDonald's. Phthalo green eats at McDonald's. Viridian, the best 5-star restaurant you've ever seen. But this one has a very decent tinting strength. I'm surprised. This one re-wet much easier than most of the Viridians that I've ever used. So good job there, DaVinci. That was a good call. Oh, here we go. Phthalo green. That is phthalo green. That's the blue shade of phthalo green. A 1 light fast, fully transparent, 3, series 3. Staining, granulating 1, and it's the PG7. That is the ridiculous. You would have to hit Viridian in the head with a lead pipe and it still would perform better than phthalo green. And there's your phthalo green. I think my theory is they were trying to come up with a Viridian that re-wet better, and they came up with this lunatic over here. And then they realized, oh, genetically engineered things probably shouldn't be used in normal life, and we have to put that thing in somewhere, lock it up. In about 50 years, when we have some genetically engineered humans walking around, that joke will get me canceled. Okay, we have a phthalo green yellow shade now. There's full light fastness, transparent, series 3, staining, granulating 1, a little slightly granulating, and that is the phthalo green yellow shade. Now, I will say this. Someone mentioned that this yellow shade, let me just get it here down on the paper so you can look at it, that the yellow shade should be more popular than the green shade because it mixes nicer greens. And I will tend to agree with that, even though I don't like either one of them. I think the yellow shade of the phthalo green will make a nicer green, but that just depends on your taste. I didn't take any of this away. Let me do that now. You know, this ridiculously staining color that I probably can't lift much of. Okay, but this is definitely probably a nicer mixing color than the phthalo green, but everyone always includes that on their palette, and they neglect this one. If you're going to pick those two, try them both. See which ones you like. A lot of people like to mix with the phthalos. That's what they like to do. Try both of them and see. And if you want to actually have a little bit of class, you go over here and get the Viridian. That's what you should do. Now this is interesting. So we have a Hooker's Green Dark. It's a 1 light fastness. It's semi-transparent, series 3, staining, granulating 1. So a little bit of granulation there. This is the phthalo green. This is the blue shade with the yellow iron oxide. That's interesting. Let's see what that looks like. So what they should have done here probably is just use this color. Use this color on that one and see, instead of the blue shade. And that's what I mean, where a lot of companies do that and a lot of people do that. A lot of people will pick that over that. This is a nicer color than that, definitely. But also, I think it's a nice color in general. It has that granulation in it, really nice. I don't know how well that's coming through, but I can see it down on the bottom there, but also up in here. I think it's a little nicer. So let me see how these two move in the water, and we'll go from there. That one doesn't really move in the water much. And that one shot through the water. So there you go. I definitely like the shade of that color better than this color, but I understand why people like this color. It just, I don't. But it's a nice color. I do like the mixes of the phthalos. I do. I've said it 100 times before. I'll say it again. The olive green is one of my favorite from Core. So one of my favorite Core greens is the olive green, and they use a phthalo green in theirs. They do too. So their olive green uses that phthalo. As a matter of fact, it's the same mixture of paint, but it's probably just a different ratio. There's probably a lot more yellow in this one than in this one. This is just to dull it down a little bit, get it a little bit more earthy color, but it's very pretty. It looks, you can see some texture on that page. It looks like it's almost like the paper has fluffed up, but it hasn't. It's just the texture of the paint. Now this Emerald Series 1 semi-opaque, Series 3, I'm sorry, that's a excellent light fastness, not a Series 1. Excellent light fastness, and then a semi-opaque Series 3 staining. The PG36, so they're using the yellow shade here, which is good, and they're using the titanium. So let's see what that looks like. The titanium white is going to make it a little bit more opaque. That's the partial opaqueness. But this is starting to look like what I think is like a spring green. And I'm not a big fan of the spring greens. I think Holbein calls them like permanent green or something like that. Not a fan of them. I don't like the brightness is just not for me. I don't paint that color ever on anything. I'll try and use some of these in the painting. I have to use these. This is what I have for the painting, so I'll have to use some of them. Okay, now we're getting into a green that I love. This is my favorite green in every set always. The Perylene, as long as they use real Perylene. If they don't, then sometimes it's not. Perylene green, it's 2 light fastnesses, which is very good. Transparent Series 3 staining, granulating a little bit. And this is the PBK 31. That is the phthalo green. They're using, I'm sorry, not phthalo. Did I say phthalo? Oh, it's infected my brain. Perylene green is my favorite green of all greens. I absolutely love that color. It goes on every palette that I can absolutely put it on because I love it that much. Perylene green, here we go. And look at that. I'm going to have to lighten this up a little bit so you can see it because it is a black pigment. So it looks black, but then as you lighten it up, it looks green. And one of my favorite things to do, because I don't have that for the core, so instead of on the core palette, what I do is I mix the olive green with a little bit of Payne's gray to get this color. But this is a beautiful, look how black that is. Black. That's jet black at the top, and then it gets this beautiful green down here, this beautiful dusty green. I love it. My favorite, I love this green. This is definitely one of my favorites ever. And it doesn't move much through the water, and that's fine. Denise gets a green? Oh, that's Denise. I know Denise. I don't know her, but I've seen her channel. Everyone has seen her channel. That's, used to be, oh, what was the name? I don't remember what it used to be. Now it's just Denise Soden, but it used to be a different name. Anyway, that's what it is now. So she got a green, and I think I remember when she got that green. I think I remember her swatching it out. I don't remember what it looks like, but I remember when she got it. So this is a 2 light fast, which is very good. Semi-transparent, Series 3, granulating a little bit. So she is throwing everyone for a loop here. I've never seen that particular combination of colors. I've never even heard of that yellow right there, but she decided to, she wanted to be a little different. That's fine. I'm sure it's a beautiful color. So there's a 2 light fast. I already said that, all that stuff. This PY129 Irgazine Yellow. Irgazine, I've never heard of that in my life. Daniel Smith does use it though in a rich green gold. That's their thing there. And Old Holland uses a bunch of it. And I guess Winsor Newton uses some for a green gold. So I guess I've seen the color. I just don't remember hearing about it. And then you put the Dandothrone blue in with it, and you get this color. So let's see what the color is. I'm sure it's a, oh, that's a beautiful color. So yeah, that's an absolutely beautiful color. It's almost like a dark sap green, I guess, like a very dark sap green with a brighter undertone, maybe. That's a very nice color. She did a good job with this one. I think that's a good color. So, but I just never and I don't like green gold by itself. I absolutely hate it. I don't like the yellow greens. To me, it's a little bit weird. But and you can see it separate out a little bit like that. But I do like this color. I think that's a nice color. It's a nice mossy kind of color, and I like the mossy greens. Okay, now we're moving on to the chromium oxide green. This is a 1 light fastness. It's opaque. Series 3 staining, granulating 1. PG17, that's the chrome oxide green. That's what it is. So that chromium oxide green, I love these colors in every set. I don't know why, because usually, like I said, it leans a little bit yellow, but it doesn't have a yellow undertone. It just looks like a green. But I always love the chromium oxide greens. I think every one that I've ever used, I've enjoyed, and I've used plenty of them. Even go out to the Rosa Gallery version of it is a beautiful color. Wonderful, wonderful color here. And very, very opaque. This is so solid. You couldn't see anything under that. I just lightened it up here. It turns into like a semi-opaque when you lighten it up a little bit. But this color, absolutely solid. But I do like it. I like the color. I think it's a good color. And if you like that kind of color, this is a great one to have on your palette. I like it. It's a nice earthy, again, a little bit on the mossier side, but earthy green. That's what I would refer to it as, an earthy green. Now this sap green here, which has a 1 light fastness, semi-transparent, series 3, granulating 1, has that phthalo green blue shade over there, and has that same blend as this Hooker's Green Dark over here. Matter of fact, the next 3 have the exact same setup here. So that's interesting. Oh, this one does too. It just adds the extra brown. Anyway, so the exact same setup. Let's see how different they can be. That yellow iron oxide in there, let's see what they do. But this is a sap green, and sap greens are, you know, a lot of different companies. Sap green is one of those colors that you have, if you have a different company, you have a different color, because that's how it just always ends up. Okay, that's not terrible. It's a little bit more yellow than I like, but I would rather use Denise's green here for a sap green than I would this. I would rather use that. Even this lighter part here, if you lighten it up a little bit, I would use that as a sap green more than that. It's not a bad color. It is a mossy color. It's a little bit earthy. I do like the shade of that color. That got darker, and I love that. That's beautiful. That's a beautiful color. Anyway, I'm going to have fun with this, I think. As I'm going through these colors, I think I'm going to have fun just putting this set into a painting and putting something together with it. Because I do like some of these colors. I think I like them. You got the blues up here, then you come down here. Anything past the Perylene green here, I've liked these so far. So wonderful. Let's see how we keep going. Now this was the Hooker's Green Dark. This is the Hooker's Green Light. Same pigment. Anyway, and same characteristics, except this one's not staining for some reason. It's got a PG7 in it. That's not true. I won't say the words that I call this out on, but I'd say that that's not true. This is going to be a staining color. Let's see how this goes here. That's interesting. You see, here's the weird thing about colors. If you don't put them right next to each other, you're not really sure. I could say that this Denise's green is like a dark sap green, and that's what I think it is, like a sap green dark or something like that. And these here are very interesting, but if you didn't put them next to each other and you couldn't tell, I would call that a sap green just as much as I call that a sap green. And many companies have different shades of a sap green. They get a little bit bluer or a little bit more yellow. And that's really all that's really happening here. But I wonder why they're not using the PG36 to mix these colors. There's got to be a reason why they don't use that more. I mean, that stuff is, I'm sure that's cheaper, maybe, I don't know. But anyway, it's not a popular color, and they don't really use that to get these other colors, and I'm not sure why. Let's see what that does in the water. It moves a little bit, not much. That sap green moved quite a bit. That moved quite a bit. That's a lot more than I thought it would. A lot of these did move. But anyway, let's move on. That olive green, I'm very curious. I always love olive green. I can't say always. I think I found one or two that I didn't like. I usually like olive green. Olive green is a beautiful color. It's one of my favorites. And they use the same setup, same properties as these other ones, except this one says staining. These two don't say staining, but they have a PG7 in them. So I guarantee now that these are dry, if I go to lift at all over here, they're not moving. They're not moving. I'm not even seeing if they're getting lighter. I say that these are maybe a touch. Maybe a touch, but this is definitely not. This is a staining color. You're not getting that back to the white of the paper. That's just, those are both staining colors. And this one's going to stain too. Okay, here we go. Olive green. I hope I like it. All right. That's interesting. I want that to settle, because as these settled, they became more beautiful as they settled. So I want to let that settle a little bit. That kind of spread into there. I'm guessing it's going to move a little bit. The one thing I'm worried about is, let's see. It didn't really, okay, so the one thing I was worried about, I'm not worried about anymore. I was worried that it was going to look very yellow underneath, and I don't usually like that when a green looks yellow under it. But this is a little bit more of a yellow compared to these, but still not a bad color. I don't think I don't like this color. I think I like it. I think I would be able to use that. So it moved in that water, not so much in this water. That's interesting. Now, just in case you're not sure, when you have different pigments that kind of blend in the water together, sometimes a color that doesn't move would move because it's attracted to something else in the other color and it pulls it through the water a little bit. So maybe that's why it kind of popped out into this one a little bit more. But anyway, this didn't move very much over here. Joyce's mother gets another green. Now, I am sure by this point, this is the 4th video in the series, someone has told me about Joyce's mother. However, Joyce's mother has had multiple different colors here. So whoever she is, she's a special person and she gets extra colors here. So we have a 1 light fastness, transparent, series 3, staining, granulating 1, which is a little bit, you have that phthalo green. Then you have a brown iron oxide and a yellow iron oxide. I love the iron oxides. They're some of my favorite colors. So I'm supposing and guessing that this is going to be a wonderful color. And Joyce's mother has beautiful taste in colors, I'm sure. So let's see. You remember that the last video, the Joyce's mother's violet? I love that color. That's one of my favorite colors in that whole set. So let's see what this one does. Oh yeah, look at that. Okay, this is the olive green that I was looking for. This is what I was looking for, and that looks just a little bit earthy underneath. So olive greens are very earthy looking. That's what they're supposed to be. And I would say, yes, that is very earthy looking. I can see the colors in there. So, okay, so let me say this. This was the sap green that they originally had, and Denise made a better sap green, just in my opinion. And I think the same thing happened here. We had an olive green here, and Joyce's mother, is probably Joyce doing this in honor of her mother. I don't know how this works. But whoever that is, Joyce probably did this. And I don't know who Joyce is either. And I'm sure you've told me. It's been a while. I've been mentioning it for a while. But anyway, look at this in here. So this is a better olive green than this is. And just in my opinion, It's a little bit earthier, and that's what I like about my olive greens. So I would say this is Joyce's mother's olive green, is what I would say. And very pretty color. Definitely one that I would use. And moves through the water wonderfully. Absolutely great. Now we'll move into a leaf green. I hate leaf greens. I do not like leaf. They're more like that permanent green or the this one here. And this is less of a permanent green now that it dried. It got darker. Like maybe a permanent green 2 or something where it's a little bit darker. But this one looks like it could be like a spring green or something. I just don't like the colors because it's too yellow for me normally. Anyway, 2 light fastness, transparent Series 3 staining. You have the PG7 is the phthalo green blue shade, and then you're using a Hansa Yellow 65. That's what the PY65 is, the Hansa Yellow. Hansa Yellows are very, very bright colors, and the phthalo green is a intense color. So you have an intense color, you're mixing it with a bright color. It's definitely going to not be my thing. Let's see here. Yes, and that is definitely not that is the yellowest green I've ever seen in my life. Definitely not my thing, not my taste. I don't like the yellow greens. And inevitably someone will tell me how this is a great mixing color because I said it's something I didn't like. And they'll say, you should just give it a try. Just put it on your palette and mix with it. Look, if I'm going to do that, I'll just mix the color and then use that. Why do I have to have this on the palette to mix? I just want to mix with it. And that's it. And if you take some of this away, look how yellow that is. That's like a highlighter underneath there. That's like a fluorescent color there. Definitely not my thing. Not saying there's anything wrong with it. If that's your thing, you like those greens, you like those bright colors, then go for it. But it's just not for me. And that didn't move very much, but you can see that green and yellow kind of separating out from each other. Mint green, another green that I'm not a very big fan of. And we have a 2 light fastness, semi-opaque, Series 3 staining. The PG7, again, we have that phthalo green. They like that. They get their money's worth out of their PG7. They mix it as much as they can. Then you have a PY3. That's a Hansa Yellow Tenji. That's like the like a lemon yellow kind of color. Or even the Hansa Yellows, just they use that. If you have something called a Hansa Yellow or a lemon yellow Hansa or something like that, that's the pigment they're using. And then you have a white in here because they're trying to make this one a little bit more opaque. Now, people question, why do you make watercolor opaque? There's nothing wrong with making watercolor opaque. You just have to use it the way it needs to be used. Some people prefer that solid color, and then sometimes they add a lot of water and make it semi-transparent there or semi-opaque. But this is very thick here. I would say that that's borderline between semi-opaque and actually just being fully opaque. That's a borderline kind of call there. But can you see this? I need to move up here, don't I? You couldn't see anything. Anyway, we're not reshooting it. That's just how it is. I don't have everything. Yes, I have everything on this. Everything's on the screen. You see it all. You can't see all the names, but you see all the colors. That's good. Now a peach. That's very interesting to get into a peach here. Usually the peaches I find fall like between the yellows and reds, but we're going to use a peach here. Now this is interesting. So there's 2 light fastness. It's opaque, Series 3 staining. But you have the PY65, which is that Hansa Yellow 65. We looked at it up here, bright, bright yellow. And now you have the PY43 is the natural yellow iron oxide. Now, I'm not sure. I've never seen the PY43 next to the PY42. So you tell me. I've never seen them just pure pigment processed exactly the same, how they would look. But I'm told that they're exactly the same. One's just natural and then one's synthetic. But the PY43 being natural, why would you not save money by buying in bulk and just buy the PY42 and use that for all the places you would put this PY43? Because both of these have it, and here has it, which is the yellow ochre, which I do have a PY42. Maybe I can put them next to each other. But this PY40, but it's not from the same company, and I can't guarantee it was processed the same, so I can't say this one looks this way looks that way. But anyway, I'm going to look at these. Why would you not just use the one that you already have in all the other paints and just use one of them, or just change them all over to the 43, whichever one's cheaper? Because They should be the exact same thing. But I don't know. I could be 100% wrong. Matter of fact, if you give me a yes or no question, I will pick the wrong answer at least 80 to 100% of the time. Okay, so we have this peach here, and that's what it is, a peach. Now, a lot of companies would not call this a peach. They may call it like a flesh color. And that brings up a good question. Someone asked me a question on the, I forget which other video it was. I think it was the Phoenix set, the skin tone set. And they said companies need to stop calling colors flesh because, you know, the light color, there's other types of skin tone other than they're basing everything on a white person. And I said, well, that's not entirely true. So my understanding of when someone calls something flesh is that they don't mean the skin on the outside. They mean when you scrape that off, the underneath, like the meat part of the finger. That would be where you'd say the flesh is. This is the skin. So I would use that the same way. I would put that down first. This lighter part here, I'd put that down first, and then I'd tone it to whatever the skin color of the person is. So you'd put that down kind of as the base layer. And that's just how I've always heard it explained. But I could, again, I could be wrong. I'm usually wrong. Now this Naples yellow here is, okay, so it's a one light fast. You have semi-opaque series 4 staining granulating 1, so it's a little bit in there. This PY35 is a cadmium yellow. So they're using a cadmium yellow with the yellow iron oxide. This is the natural yellow iron oxide. Let's see what that looks like. So in this case, it's the cadmium giving it that opacity there. Cadmiums are always that kind of opaque. And that's an interesting Naples yellow. Usually the Naples yellow I see is a little bit more brown in it. Or golden, I should say. Not brown. It's a little bit more golden than this. But that's a pretty color. If you don't mind the semi-opaque colors, you could use this as the yellow on your palette. It's very interesting. That's a nice color. Of course, I'm a big fan of the yellow iron oxides. And the cadmium yellow just is usually a little bit brighter of a yellow. So it looks good. I think that's a good color. Definitely gives me a little bit more to work with in the painting, and it moves through the water pretty good. Okay, so this Naples yellow is using a very interesting combination that's going to tongue-tie the crap out of me. Okay, Naples yellow deep here, so maybe this one will look a little bit more of that golden color because it does have a brown in it. You have a one light fast, it's completely opaque, series 4, very granulating. The PBR24 is the chrome antimony titanate. So anytime you see the word titanate or titanium, think of titanium. It means it's opaque. That's a very opaque color there. And the PY53 we've seen many times here on the channel. That's the nickel antimony titanium yellow rutile. So again, titanium, you're thinking that's going to be very opaque. This is a very opaque color. Let's see. Yeah, that's a little bit more in the vein. A little different still. A little different still, but still more in the vein of what I think of when I think of a Naples yellow. But look at that, it gets very light. You can lighten that back to the white of the page, I think. I'm going to stop there because I don't want to do that, but that gets very light. And moves through the water very well. It filled that little area right there pretty good. And now we have a yellow ochre, so we have the one light fast, which is excellent. Oh, this did get very dark. Look at that. That's beautiful color. I love this color. Great job mixing this one up. So this yellow ochre, you have a single light fastness, semi-opaque, series 1, so very inexpensive. And so I guess maybe that's the reason they're using that 43 instead of the 42. Maybe the 42 is a little bit more. I don't know. I have no idea. And it's granulating 1, so some granulation, of course, because that yellow ochre, it's an oxide. Oxides tend to be slightly granulating. PY43, that's the natural version of the yellow iron oxide. And I love a good yellow ochre. I'm a huge fan of yellow ochre. I love the color. And this is a good representation of what that should look like. It looks just like that. Yep, that's a good yellow ochre. And what I like to do with a good yellow ochre is, if you lighten it enough, you can put it in the sky slightly as a lighter shade, like a brighter shade. A lot of traditional watercolorists will use yellow ochre in the sky and then add the blue to it. And if you don't mix them, it just adds like these bright highlights into your sky. It's very pretty. A lot of people also use this on buildings to highlight buildings, especially like a sandstone building. That would make a very beautiful, bright, glowing kind of highlight. But also any kind of building, you could use that and give it just a slightly light highlight. It's just a pretty color. I usually use the Mars yellow, which is the same thing. It's just a little bit more transparent than the yellow ochre, that's all. But really, yellow ochre, just one of my favorite colors. Now, raw sienna is usually, people will do one or the other. They usually don't do both. This is like a good substitute. Well, before I say that, let me look and see what this looks like, because they're using a brown iron oxide here. But anyway, it's more transparent than the yellow ochre. It's a series 1, so I mean, not series 1. It is an excellent light fastness. It is it is a series 1. It is series 1. That was a mistake that I got right on accident. Anyway, there's a semi-transparent series 1, granulating 1, and it's the brown iron oxide. Again, beautiful color. Now, sometimes when you get these in company, you can barely tell them apart. I mean, you can see that they're different colors, but barely. They're just one slightly one way or the other. Let's see what they do. Oh, those are very different. Okay, so that brown is like an orangey brown. I'm gonna move through the water like crazy. That's excellent. But it's like an orangey brown. Let's see what it looks like underneath here. Yeah, so I like what they did here. Their raw sienna is entirely different than their yellow ochre. Whereas sometimes you have it like, it's just a little bit closer, like these two. You would have one be like a raw sienna, one be a yellow ochre or something like that. But this is very different, and I like that they did that. Good job, Da Vinci. So this is very orangey yellow, and I love this color. I'm so happy that it's in the set, because it's going to, I usually like, anytime I use this kind of color, I like to put a blue around it. Almost like a complementary color where I like to do it with the earthy yellows, the earthy orangey yellows, and then do that with the blue. It just looks so nice. So I'm glad this is in the set so I can do that here, because nothing else here is really an orange. Well, maybe a little bit on that Naples yellow. That kind of got a little orangey hue to it, but like almost like a, I don't know, like just a warm yellow or something. But this is more like an orangey, earthy color. So very pretty, very pretty. I like that a lot. So overall, what do you think? Are you scared? I'm scared. I don't know what I can do with this palette. It's very green. It's just a very green, but I'm gonna do what I can. Let me tell you, from here down to here, I'm a fan of their greens. They made some beautiful green choices here. Very nice. Gives me a lot to work with. Usually in a set of greens from companies, I maybe have 1 or 2 that I can actually use. This one, a wide range of greens. I absolutely love how earthy they like their greens. That's how I like my greens. Okay, let's see what I can do with this. Okay, let's start out by saying this is probably my least favorite piece that I've done in this series. And I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm saying it's my least favorite. And it could be because of the colors. It could be just because of how it was. And I liked the colors. Don't get me wrong, I like the colors, especially those earthy greens and those paler blues. I really do like that. And the earth tones were beautiful. I love those as well. It just, sitting all together, I don't know what I think of it. And I ended up putting an eye in this one. You'll see it. It'll pop up. But anyway, I think it was just because I had issues with which colors I wanted to put next to each other to kind of highlight each other. And also, I'm not familiar with the mixing of the greens as much. I don't mix with a lot of greens. So I started to do that. I tried to do that. The browns I mixed okay. The blues were fine. The greens mixed, they were not the best. And I mix on the page. So I didn't mix anything before I put it on the page. It went right from the dot to the page. That's what I always do. That's how I like to do it. I like to do that, mix it on the page and see what happens. I really enjoy some of the colors, but I wish, what I think I need is other colors to put next to these. That's what I think I need. And you wait until the painting looked terrible. When I first did just the painting, absolutely terrible. You have to wait till I put the ink in. I know I always say that, but especially on this one. I think my favorite part about it is the upper, for you, it's the upper right side. Those earth tones, the way that they worked very well together with some of the blues that were next to them. And then down on the bottom right where I put in some extra detail. That section there I liked, so across that diagonal. Everything else around it was kind of up in the air. I'm not really sure. I probably would have done it a little bit different if I did it again. It's okay. It's wonderful. Everything's fine. We're moving along, and I did enjoy the colors. The colors themselves, I loved so many of these colors. More than I thought. And I said that, I think, in every video. More than I thought. I'm not a green person. You know that. I pick one or two greens and I stick with them and that's it. And from this set, I liked a lot of them. I showed you that when we were swatching. So many of them. I really enjoyed. So, as far as the brushes go, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those brushes. They painted the way that I wanted them to paint, but I couldn't get them to hold water for anything. And I think it's just because it's a smaller size than what I use. Normally, I'm using the Quilbra, well, at least lately, I'm using the bigger quill brushes and the larger rounds. This number 6 round, it was really tiny. And I guess it painted well. It painted the way that I wanted it to. And that angular brush, whatever it's called, that painted just like I wanted it to. It's just that it wasn't, they're not my favorite. Let's put it that way. They're not in my top of brushes, not at all. But that's okay. Maybe I need to try a bigger size. I will do that. I will get a big size of those and try and paint with a bigger one and see if that works for me. All in all, it was a great experience. I had fun. I had fun with these colors. I really enjoy these colors. I think that they are going to add a lot to the palette that I pick. The next video, it's all the earth and dark colors and some of the new colors apparently. So there should be some variation there and I should be able to do what I want to do, how I want to do it in the next video. I'm looking forward to that one even more than any other one that everyone so far that I thought, oh no, there's not a variation. I can't really do anything with it. And I loved all of them except for this one. It was okay. I like it. It's just not the best. And I'm allowed to say that. I can say that something that I did is not my favorite. I'm allowed to say that. Now, if you say, no, I thought it was the best one you've done, that doesn't mean I'm putting you down or your taste in art down. It just means that, for my opinion, for what I look for in art, it wasn't my favorite. You may love it. That's great. You may not like it even a little bit, and that's fine too. That's fine. You're allowed to have whatever opinion you need to have for whatever you look at. Anyway, so let's get to this point. That is just great segue right into this. It's not that there's so many people coming back to art and looking at it and saying, I've got to learn everything I can learn. And you try and learn all the principles and you're taking classes and the rule of thirds and the golden ratio and the color theory and stop it. You don't have to do that. Let me tell you why you don't have to do that. Because it's not the principles that made the art great. The art came first. Did you know that? It was the art came first, and this one painter painted a certain way, and someone liked the way they painted, and they said, what is it about the way that they paint? Oh, I noticed that they keep doing this. So we're going to make that a principle and import that over into art and say, if you want to have your art look good, do this because their art looks good and they do that. That doesn't always hold true for everyone. That's not always the truth. I've done it myself many times where it's not the rule of thirds and it looks wonderful. It draws your eye to it just the same, keeps you on the page just the same. The golden ratio is, I want to say this, a lot of people will disagree with me. The golden ratio is dumb. Let me tell you why. All you have to do is superimpose that golden ratio over anything. And you say, oh look, there it is. I've looked at that thing hundreds of times. I've watched videos on that thing was trying to understand, what do you mean the golden ratio? Oh, well, it follows this kind of spiralist pattern and kind of... No, it doesn't. Not at all. Matter of fact, the spiral itself follows the rule of thirds, so maybe that's the only thing you're talking about. But this whole golden ratio thing, ignore it. Don't pay any attention to it. Let me give you a little story. All of the best musicians that have ever lived, I know we're talking about art here, but just hear me out. We're talking about visual art. Music is art too. Anyway, we're talking some of the best musicians from the biggest band names that you've ever heard of did not follow the rules of music. Did you know that? They didn't follow the exact chord progression that you're supposed to follow or use the exact scale the way that you're supposed to use it. They put things in that don't belong, and it made people say, hey, that's interesting. I think I want to do that. What I do, whether it's music or whether it's art, visual art, when I paint and draw, whatever I'm doing, I don't follow a rule. If you have to follow, if you think the whole time, oh, I got to stay in this thing over here and I got to make it look like this and make sure this section is double the size of this section. And if you do that, you're putting yourself in such a box you will never get out. And it'll just stifle your creativity. Just make something that you think looks appealing. And then try and duplicate that, but change something different. Maybe add a little bit of a flair here or there. And just keep doing things like that. And create the art that you want to look at, because that's all that really matters. Is it interesting to look at? You don't have to follow a rule. If you want to do a large, like 4 foot by 4 foot painting, a watercolor painting, take the paper, slap it on a canvas or on a board or something, and then you paint on the paper. And then just on the one side, you want to do a little something that's different. Like let's say you want to throw a little gouache on it. Oh no, don't do that. Do it. See what it looks like. See if you like it. Don't worry about it. It's more important that you're creating the art that you want to create than if you're following a principle. And let me tell you something else. I know a lot of people that follow the principles of art, and I'm not crazy about their artwork. They may like it. It may be something that they like, and that's fine. That's the most important thing, is that they like it. But I don't. It's not interesting to me. Or if they have to write a book for me to understand what it is, I don't care. That doesn't matter if I think it's interesting or not. If you have to write a book for me to understand what this piece is about, I don't care about it. I would rather move on, please. The only thing I want to know is it interesting to look at? Then if I say, hey, this is beautiful, I really like looking at this, then you can tell me your little story about it. That's fine. But don't just go and say, oh, you have to understand this. Have you ever been on a cruise ship before? All the same painters on every cruise ship. Every cruise ship sells the same paintings. I don't understand how that happens because they all claim to be the originals. But I've been on several different cruise ships, not even the same companies, and they have the same pieces of art from the same artists on that cruise ship. How does that happen? But if I don't think the art's interesting, I don't care about the story behind it. Just let me make sure it's interesting first. I make sure I want to look at it and I think it's interesting. I don't care if they're following rules and you could put that golden ratio thing on it and it matches up. I don't care. I don't care if the color theory is correct. I don't care about any of those things. Is the art interesting to look at? And not all the time does it follow those principles. You may find that you like a certain thing and later find out, hey, look, it follows one of those principles. That's great, wonderful. But don't think about that while you're creating it, or you'll shove yourself in that box. And that goes for so many different things. I know people, like, let's say you're looking to teach someone how to paint or how to draw or whatever, and you only know some stuff. You can make things look interesting, but you can't explain all the principles behind it. But you can show that person, hey, look, if you do this, sometimes it makes it look better. You know the one that always gets me? The one that always gets me is the shadow thing. Someone draws a sphere, and then they put the light on it like they're supposed to, and it's coming down from one side, and it's lighter there, and then it gets darker as you go towards the bottom, and then you have the table that it's sitting on, and they put the little shadow on it, and then they lighten the edge of the object, and they say, this is the reflection of the light. I've never seen that. I don't put anything on reflective. I'm not using mirror tables. I don't see reflections back up underneath it because it hit the table and reflected. I don't see, I'm looking at things right now. On my desk, I have a gray desk. You've seen it. It's in the painting. You see it right now. And I put something on top of it. It's not lighter just before it touches the desk. There's no reflect. I'm looking at the things. There's nothing there. There's no light reflecting off the desk, and I have a light on the desk. There's no light reflecting off of it, lighting up the underside of anything. I don't get that. Maybe if you have like a marble table or something like that, something highly reflective and you got gemstones in it, or I don't know. But if you have something on a black table, it's not going to happen. I don't see it. So you don't always have to do that. If you're drawing from life and you don't see it, don't put it in just because someone told you, well, it's a principle that you're supposed to do. The light comes down and bounces off and lights the underside. If you don't see it, it's not there. So just when people tell you things, it's okay, but don't drive yourself nuts that you have to learn all these principles before you can do your art. Just start doing your art. If you want to learn some things, great. If you want to be traditionally this or traditionally that, then do it. But just start painting. Start drawing without knowing the principles. You can learn them as you go if you want to. And if you don't, it'll probably be more interesting anyway. That is not a popular opinion, but that's how I feel about it. And if that's not how you feel about it, that's fine too. Okay, enough of me yelling at you. You're trying to watch a video and I'm yelling at you. It's all my fault. I probably deserve all the nonsense that these people are going to write in the comments down below. They're just going to tear me apart. Unlike these people popping up here, they don't do that. They don't tear me apart. They don't tear into me. They just let me do what I'm doing, and they just smile and nod like they know that I'm doing the dumb thing, and they don't care anyway. They're just saying, yeah, just go ahead and have some fun. They know how to react to me. That's just how that is. You know how to react to me too. So thank you for watching this video and putting up with my nonsense. So thumb up the video if you are going to check out some of these paints and the brushes, and then you're going to paint however you want to paint because it's your sketchbook or your watercolor paper or your canvas or whatever it is, and you get to do whatever you want with your stuff. How about that? That's the wonderful thing about being an adult. You can do whatever you want with your stuff. All right, I don't know if I messed anything up here, but I'll try something. I'll look for something and put it right here at the end. So this is now label 4. This was label 5, not 3. I had the other one mixed up too. If I would have done these in the wrong order, I would have been very upset. So I sighed and I thought to I didn't sigh. That's not the word. That's not the word. I didn't sigh at all. So the colors were great. I enjoyed all of them, from the blues, the greens, the purples. There's no purples. It's yellow. It's earth tones. No purples in this one. So I like the way it goes up to the right side and down to the left. Oh, I forgot. It's always the opposite with you. I'll say that again. So don't let those donkey mothers tell you what to do with your stuff. Oh. People take me very seriously. I promise I'm not angry about anything. One of these days, it's going to get me canceled. I will be canceled. It's just a matter of time. If you'd like to join our community, head over to illustrationsbypete.com. You can just check some things out. You go through the site however you want and sign up for the newsletter that I almost never send out because I don't want to annoy the crap out of you more than I already do with my nonsense in these videos. But I'd love to hear from you, so come on over. All right.